Hello, can we start our lecture? But since we are starting 30 minutes, uh, uh, instead of 1 o'clock, we started 1:30. So more or less 30 minutes is gone out of our time. So I will implore us to start our lecture immediately. So our today's lecture will center around Greiners growth model, ethical stance, and corporate social responsibility, CSR. So to start with, we are starting with Greiners growth model. The Greiners growth model is a model used by corporate organizations, scholars, entities, and multinational companies to explain the various stages of organization life cycle. This model was developed by Larry Greiner to inform corporate organizations, investors, and entrepreneurs that organizations, just like products, have life cycle, and there are at least 5 or 6 phases of organization life cycle. This life cycle that we are seeing help to guide strategic decision making. It is strategic decision making. It facilitates deployment and effective use of the limited resources of the organization. The greener growth model too equally guides company on how to resolve different conflicts or crises that may arise in the course of transition from one stage to another. Because the business environment where the organization operates is not static. At times it can be static, it might be complex, it might be turbulence, and highly dynamic. So due to these persistent changes and the possibility of having internal crisis in the organization, then the Greener growth model informs us that companies experience series of crises in each stage of their life cycle, and in transmitting from one stage to another in form of expansion or growth. Instances do occur whereby companies face series of challenges. So the Greener growth model is popularly referred to strategic management tools used to explain the phases or cycle of business organization and all associated crises. All these crises that we are mentioning, they can be identified in each phases, and appropriate strategic decision to resolve the crisis or conflict can be implemented by the organization. So the general growth model use 2 parameters or indices to measure the growth of the company. The parameters are time and the organization size. That as the company is increasing in size over time, then it transforms from one stage to another, and the company experience certain crisis. And that's the more reason why they use 2 indicators, time and organization size, to measure the company phase of growth and all crisis experience. The time factor. The time factor is one of the variables used in the Greener's organizational growth model, and this informs us that complaints pass through sequential stages. Company increase in age and size, just like human being and products. So as company is expanding, growing over time, then we expect the size of the company to increase, because there's a possibility the company will now have divisional outlets, sales outlets, regional outlets, some strategic business units. So the age of the company, the expansion of the company over time, increase the scope, the structure and operation of the organization. The Greiners growth model informs us that the management of an organization should understand all these phases of organization circle for them to be able to make informed management styles. Because the leadership styles adopted by the managers, supervisors, the CEOs, the board of directors, or what have you, go a long way to determine the success of organization. It go a long way to determine the proficiency and efficiency of all the employees in the organization. So the leadership style, the organization structure, coordination mechanism, the control put in place in each of these phases or circle of the organization, they are the essential elements that will foster sustainable growth, improve performance, and competitiveness. So therefore, each phase or circle of the organization require different competency of the entrepreneurs or management. And why do we need this different competency? There is need for different competency due to the myriad of changes, dynamism in a business environment. We need this different competency, core competency and ability due to environmental threats in a business environment. And this competency is required because of the life cycle crisis. Because no organization is crisis free. So companies are bound to experience some challenges in the course of their operation in any chosen industry where they operate. So the Greiners growth model guides company strategic decisions and policy. According to Larry Greiner, the Greiners growth model can be illustrated by the diagram we are seeing on our slide. The diagram is the diagrammatic illustration of the phases in the Greiners growth model. If you limit yourself to phase 1 to 5, you are right, ignoring phase 6, because the phase 6 is more or less the repetition or extension of phase 5. So in the diagram that we are seeing, we can see on our y-axis we see organization size, while in the x-axis we see organization age. If you don't put organization age, you can just put time there, it's allowed. So in that diagram, you can see that in phase 1, that is the first circle, first phase, or first stage of the organization life. That is the phase of commencement of the business. We have it in that diagram that it is the phase of growth through creativity. And the crisis that the organization experienced there is the crisis of leadership. In phase 2, we have the phase that the company experienced further growth through direction. As a result of that direction, more formalized organization, the company experienced the crisis of autonomy. In phase 3, we have additional growth, improvement in the performance of the company, increase in age of the company and the size at phase 3. That is why we have growth through delegation. There is delegation of responsibility tax now, because the company is well structured, well formalized and standardized. But in that phase 3 that we have, growth through delegation, there is crisis of control. In phase 4, we have growth being achieved through effective coordination. But due to that growth through coordination, we have the crisis of red tape that we equally call red tapeism. In phase 5, the company experience improve and enhance growth through collaboration. So the crisis that they experience here is a crisis of debt, crisis of red tape, crisis of bureaucracy. Same with phase 6 that we call growth through alliances. So all these phases will now be duly explained. Phase 1. In our phase 1, it is the first stage of the organization life cycle. At this stage, the company is relatively small in size. The company is small in size, and the company is still at the infancy, meaning that the company is a newly born company. They just commence operations. At phase 1, we must inform the examiner that the staff strength of the companies are very small. So most entrepreneurial organizations here, they later invest in the recruitment of more experienced staff to occupy some strategic position as the company increases in size and scope. In the phase 1, the company used what we call the entrepreneurial structure because that company is not well formalized. It is an informal setup that the company is using, and all major strategic decisions are taken by the owners of the business or the entrepreneur, or the assigned admin managers. So at this phase, the company is striving to grow, and the strategy put in place by the company to grow at the phase 1 is creativity, innovation, effective customer service delivery, and product quality. So at phase 1, because the company is trying to grow at a faster rate, and all major decisions revolve around the owners alone, that brings about crisis of leadership. Because without the owner of the business, you can't take any decision. And the owner too cannot attend to major crises and demands of this business. So it is advisable that as the company increases in size, the company has to be well formalized, put in place organization structure, and delegate responsibilities. In phase 2, it is the phase of growth through direction. So what happened in phase 2 is that the company becomes more formal, the company becomes more functional, the company recruit more able, experienced, and capable staff to occupy some strategic positions. So all these newly recruited staff, they are empowered with some responsibilities. And why in turn, they have to be answerable, accountable to the managers or the owners of the business. At phase 2, there is effective coordination and departmentalization. So we have some units being created. Above all, in the phase 2, we now have some rules and regulations, ethical conduct that guide the activities in the organization. So that phase 2, the company has become more formal and well structured. And at phase 2 too, the company is increasing and expanding in size. So due to that, we are going to have the crisis of autonomy because all major decisions are still taken by the owner of the business. It's just few decisions that is being delegated to some of the functional managers. In phase 3, there is a further growth being experienced by the company, or because the company increased in size, the company increased in age. So as a result of the crisis of autonomy that we have in stage 3, to address this situation in phase 3, the company appoints middle managers that are responsible for taking tactical and operational objectives for the company. These middle managers, they assist the company in managing the employees, managing the portfolio of investments of the company. So the middle managers that we call the divisional managers, they are more experienced, and that their experience assists in effective coordination because they are empowered to do so. But the major crisis that we have in stage 3 is the crisis of control. Because now we have more divisional managers, we have so many managers, functional managers that we have been assigned responsibility at different units. So we need effective control and coordination to harness all their functions so that nobody will derail from the strategic intention of the company. So there's a risk of management crisis at stage 3, all because effective control is needed. And you and I knew that to control different branches, different regional outlets, different divisions is a lacuna task. So stage 3 is associated with crisis of control. In stage 4, there is an internal growth that is experienced through coordination. The effective coordination put in place in stage 3 foster spontaneous and increasing growth for the company. So in stage 4, the company increased further in age and size. As a result of that, some companies diversify their investment in stage 4. So the company further established more departments that reports to the head office in stage 4. We have some divisional managers. We have the SBU's managers. SBU means strategic business unit managers that are appointed to manage some divisions and product lines of the company so that the company will be able to achieve its broad strategic goals and objectives. Because at that stage 4 now, we have expanded in scope. Our product line too have increased. So there is need for us to have functional managers. There is need for us to change our organizational structure to properly divisional structure or matrix structure. So due to these large numbers of units, divisions that we have, and the organizational structure we put in place, there is always crisis of red tape. This red tape, at times you can see it in some literatures, that some scholar will call it red tapeism. So we have REDTAPISM is the same thing. The red tape means that there are a series of rigid policy protocols to be followed. That is what we call bureaucracy. And this one will reduce or slow down the decision making, and it will even bring about rigidity and lack of flexibility. In some instances where this is not well managed, it can bring about inertia. So in stage 5, the company transmutes into higher stage. This is more or less the apex of the organization growth. It is start the stage of collaboration or cooperation. At this stage of collaboration, already we have large number of divisions. So all we need to do now is to bring about what we call synergy and integration of functional activities to manage all our portfolio of investment branches. So in this stage 5 now, in an ideal organization, we discover that there is what we call mutually benefiting cooperation among the line and staff departments. So this cooperation among the staff brings about what we call team unity, teamwork, and it brings about what we call effective coordination and communication. So the collaboration help us in managing all sort of conflicts that might arise. It helps us to prevent role conflicts too. So at phase 5, the company use matrix structure because this one will give us opportunity to network and harness all our various regional outlet branches that we have. So in phase 5, there is always what we call little formalization. There is little formalization and standardization because all the staffs work in unity. They see themselves as one. And in stage 5 too, we discovered that companies mostly make consultations. They are doing these consultations to inform of feasibility and acceptability or for them to evaluate some proposal. They are doing consultation at times for them to know some other areas they can diversify investment and plow back their profit, reinvest their profit. All these consultations are needed too for the companies not to experience declining performance, which will serve as a major pitfall for the company. So the consultations might be equally be done for the company to achieve further growth through strategic alliance and cooperative agreement. So in phase 5, the company faced the crisis of red tapeism, bureaucracy, and there can be incidents of litigations in case the company that we go into alliance with or some of our consultants violate the contractual agreement, we can sue them and at the same time they can sue us too. So a lot of protocols are involved. In stage 6, that's the phase of growth through alliance. Here, the company can use so many forms of alliance and growth strategy. It can be merger and acquisition. It can be strategic alliance. And that strategic alliance too, we have different levels. We have the corporate level strategic alliance that comprises of the use of diversifying strategic alliance, franchising strategic alliance, and synergistic strategic alliance. The company can use business level strategic alliance, among which uncertainty reducing alliance, competitor reducing alliance, and collaboration alliance. There's so many alliances that the company can do here. The essence of the alliance is to minimize business risks, to cushion against business risk, and to deliberately look for the opportunities or the areas where the company can further invest. And the alliance too always help us to strengthen our areas of weaknesses. So anytime the company go into alliance, there is always a lack of flexibility, possible changes in some visions and mission statements, bureaucracy situations are minimum, and we can't rule out the incidence of litigations. Because we have to put in place the legal requirement, the legal compliance to avoid any cheating or breach of contractual agreement. So what are the uses of the Greiners growth model? Uses of the Greiners growth model. Uh, One, it helps us to understand that organization, just like products, have different cycle or phases they pass through. Two, it assists us to know that each phase of the organization, the existence of complaints in any industry is subjected to some crisis that companies they don't just have a smooth growth or transmission from one stage to another. So companies experience crisis, turbulence, challenges in the course of their existence, and strategic plans have to be put in place to manage, adapt, and overcome these challenges. Another usefulness of the Greiners growth model is that the Greiners growth model help us to formulate different strategies to enhance organizational growth. So it is one thing for the company to grow, it is another for you to be able to sustain it. The sustainability of the organization growth and its competitive advantage is a major decisions. So that require putting in place proactive strategies. So through this Greiners growth model, company can be able to formulate different strategies to ensure the going concern for the company, different strategy to ensure effective management of the portfolio of investment of the company. So according to Larry Greener, he said the Greiners growth model can be used in various ways. So some of the various ways of using Greiners growth model are this. One, in step one, we are informed that we should determine the phase of the model the company is operating currently. The interpretation of that step one is that is the company in phase one, that is the phase of creativity, or phase two, the phase of direction, or phase three, the phase of delegation. We have to determine the current phase the company is operating. Step two, we have to determine if we are close to crisis points at that phase. Is there any crisis of leadership? Are we facing crisis of autonomy, or are we crisis, presently facing the crisis of coordination or control? So in phase three, we have to determine the step we need to take to be able to overcome the crisis and move to the next circle or phase of the organization. So drastic and critical approach is needed here to ensure that all hands on decks, all functional managers and the top notes of the company must come together to ensure they put in place the appropriate strategies and enabling environment for the company to be able to experience further growth. In stage four, we have to track the lesson as the singing progress. Now we have to take note of all the experiences, the positive experiences, the negative ones, how we overcome them in each stages of the organization. So as the company grows in size and age over time, we have to take notes of all the activities of the company, because this one will guide us in overcoming whatever challenges that might come up. It will guide us in putting in place effective strategic approach to nurture the company to greater heights and achieve competitive advantage. So the last steps given by Lara Greiners is that Larry stated that we have to repeat the process every 6 to 12 months. So there's a need for periodic review of all these steps. So what are the criticism of the Greiners growth model? One, it is simplistic. Two, they said there's some scholar that say that it is not all companies that experience crisis at this phase of their growth. It looks so fine. It's very easy to critique, but to me, they said some companies adapt easily without suffering any obvious panic. I wish I doubt. Which I doubt. In fact, in some couple of weeks ago, we discovered that Dangote diversified conglomerately into refinery business. We all see the way the man was panicking. Just 4 days ago, Dangote said, I didn't mean his investment in refinery business that he diversified failed totally. He said, I was dead because he invested over $25 billion. There's so many money that you cannot account for. So companies face series of challenges. It's not limited to government agency, not limited to Dangote. There is no company, be it individual company, small and middle scale enterprises, or what have you, that will say that they don't experience crisis from first phase, commencement of their business, stage of infancy, up to the stage that they attain greater heights. So, another criticism of the Greiners growth model is that it is extremely difficult to determine the age of the company, and it's difficult for us to determine the speed of transmission, speed of growth from one stage to another. So these are some of the identified criticism of the Greiners growth model. So having looked at that, we quickly do justice to merger and acquisition, which is a familiar word to us. Merger and acquisition, as we all know, they are both growth strategy. So merger and acquisition give an opportunity for company to enter a new market easily, to acquire customers easily. Merger and acquisition, being a growth strategy, help two or more entities to come together to operate a viable, profitable commercial business activities. That is merger. When we have two or more entities coming together, in some instances, it can require change of ownership name in merger. So anytime we are talking of merger, so two companies come together, they might be of approximately the same size, or the proportion of one company in terms of size, financial strength, customer base, liquidity might be higher more than the other. So what is most important is that in merger, we have at least the minimum of two companies coming together. I put there, we have the merger of Access Bank and Diamond Bank. But when you talk of acquisition, in acquisition, we discover one company have a more or less a relative competitive advantage, strength, structure, financial strength over another. And most acquisition normally comes in play when we have a larger company that purchases outrightly a weak or underperforming company. So under the acquisition, the company that acquire will have the largest equity share. It has the control of the company. It has the control of all their staff. There's tendency that they can retain the staff acquired, or over time, some of these staff can be laid off. So in both merger and acquisition, there is need for us to critically evaluate this strategic growth decision so that you do not have any adverse negative effects in the short, medium, and long term. So what are the advantages of acquisition and merger? So the advantage is that they are growth strategy. A successful merger and acquisition give opportunity for the company to experience another strategic growth. So, and the growth we experience here is faster than that of the internal development growth. Two, the growth by acquisition or merger is much faster than growth through internal development. What we call the growth through internal development is that when we formulate strategy like market penetration, product development, it takes time before this can reflect or bring about high return on investment, high return on the capital employed. But with merger and acquisition, if we get it right, so it gives us a faster and spontaneous growth. So with acquisition can give the buyer immediate ownership of new products, new markets, and new customers. Yes, because once you acquire, you are now have the ownership rights over the new products, the market, and all the existing customers of the company. Acquisition also give opportunity for the company to enter new market areas where there is barriers to enter. It will give you opportunity to enter. What are the disadvantages of acquisition and merger? Disadvantages: one, it is relatively expensive. Huge amount of investment, sweat capital is involved to either acquire or merge. Two, another thing that we know as the demerit of acquisition is that there is a loss of proportional ownership, of the entity. Because by the time you merge together, for instance, now, originally before the merging, the commanding and the leading major shareholders might have probably 50% of the share of the company, or 65%, for instance. But during merger, you have to relinquish part of this your share capital. It will now end up to be 30% for company A, 30% for company B, or 50-50. At times it can be 55-45 or 60-40. So that means the merger, in most cases, leads to a situation whereby you have to relinquish part of your equity share capital. The percentage of the share that you control will automatically reduce anytime there's a merger between two companies, company A and company B. And another major crisis that we have is that the coming together of two entities, two companies. All these companies, they have different owners. All these companies, they have different organization structure, different vision and mission statements. So they have different philosophy, values, operating system. So as a result of that, it always takes time, and it's a major challenge for us for be able to align our culture, vision together to become one. And another major disadvantage of merger and acquisition is that it threats the employee's job. This fear of job security, the fear of losing their job, is a major problem. So that major problem creates a lot of crisis for all the stars and most organizations. So now we have diversification and integration. Diversification and integration. The diversification and integration is what we call diversification. Diversification means investing into a line of business that might be new or modified. Anytime we are talking of diversification occurs when an individual or corporate organization or business enterprise invests into either related or unrelated line of businesses. With diversification, it gives company an opportunity to cushion against risks, meaning that it helps us to reduce business risks and uncertainties. Diversification, if successful, it gives company opportunity to expand their line of businesses and products. So in diversification, if well implemented and successful, is a very good growth strategy. So diversification is a highly risky growth strategy because we are moving into a new product area or new market areas at the same time. But there are majorly two types of diversification. We have related diversification, that is equally called concentric diversification. In that related diversification, companies diversify into a related line of business that is similar to the businesses that they have been doing before. So anytime we diversify into related diversification, then the company minimize their risks. When we diversify into related line of business, it is less expensive. When we diversify into related line of business, it promotes strategic alignment and opportunity to use part of our existing facilities. But if we diversify into unrelated line of business that we call conglomerate diversification, that was highly risky. That was the example I cited. Dangote Group moving to refinery business. It doesn't have anything to do with all the business that they have been doing before. It's highly risky. It is capital intensive, and a lot of challenges are involved. So this diversification, we are still going to look at it. By the time we discuss on Eagle answer growth strategy, that is the internal development strategy. So diversification is a growth strategy. So integration, what do you mean by integration? Integration means extending the operational or scope of business activities of the company. So by integration, we have two types of integration. We have horizontal integration. That horizontal integration means that the company obtain a larger share of the existing product markets. Most times, when we are talking of horizontal integration, I want you to note that, take note of that. Horizontal integration always occur when the company venture into the line of business of its competitor, or when a company acquire the business unit or product of a company, of their competitors, or when a company invests in the production of their competitors' products, or if a company purchase share capital, they purchase share in their competitors. When the companies are selling share, they too they invest certain amount of money to buy the shares. That's what we call horizontal integration. You can see the example I posted. The typical example of horizontal integration is Coca-Cola bottling company acquiring Limca bottling company. I will say Coca-Cola acquire She Vita. That is horizontal because it's a complete product before. So in a horizontal integration, when we diversify and acquire the main product of our company, or we do what we call buy-in, we invest a certain amount of money in form of share in the production of our competitors' products. But in a vertical integration occur when we acquire vertical integration. It occur when a business acquire or merge with another entity at a different stage in the supply chain. So anytime we are talking of vertical integration, it always comes in form of related diversification, so that it will be reduce the number of breaks that we are facing. Apart from horizontal and vertical, we have what we call forward and backward integration. By forward integration is also called downstream integration. So another name for forward integration is downstream integration that occur when a company enter the product market of its customers. So the company diversify into the same line of business that their customers are doing. So anytime we do that, we say we are doing forward vertical integration. A good example, let's say we normally buy our packaging container from vendors. So by the time we finish the production, we sell to our customers, the customers sell to the final consumers. But this year now, as part of our corporate policy and strategy for growth to additional sales, the company decided to embark on direct selling. before we don't sell directly to our final consumers. Now that we are embracing direct selling, then we are doing what we call forward integration, because we have entered the product market of the customers. Because normally our customers buy from us and they sell to the end user. But in the backward integration is also called upstream integration, and it occurs when we enter the product market of our suppliers. What our suppliers is supplying us, we are now producing it internally within the organization. So anytime that occurs, that means we don't longer need the services of the suppliers again, because we have integrated backward. We are generating our source of raw materials internally. And this one will help us in reducing the operational cost. The cost of purchase of the raw materials and other component parts will reduce. And there is tendency that the quality of the product that we are producing internally too can even be more superior than the one we outsource. So next we have forecasting. Forecasting. In this forecasting, I don't know. I can't recall the last time I can set question here. It's a neglected topic. Neglected topic, all because it's been decades that I see, be it direct question or case question on forecasting. Without notwithstanding, we still have to look at the meaning of forecasting and the two main types of forecasting that we have. Because this program, the beauty of it is that it's beyond writing exam, it's value adding. So forecasting is a strategic planning tool. It is a strategic planning tool that aids assumption of future events. With forecasting, the company can forecast the total quantity of certain product that they can sell within stipulated period. With forecasting, the company can benchmark and forecast the likely return on investment they can get at the year ended 2025. So forecasting is a strategic planning tool used by the company to make future assumptions or estimations of likely sales volume, sales returns, returns on capital employed, and many more. There are majorly two types of forecasting techniques. Majorly, two major types of forecasting techniques. That is quantitative forecasting techniques, and we have the second one. This is the second one, qualitative forecasting techniques. The distinction between the two is that one is in numeric form, while the other one does not use numeric tools to estimate future events. In the quantitative forecasting embrace the use of statistical and mathematical tools to predict future outcomes in numeric terms. That's the reason why we call it quantitative. We use statistical and mathematical tools and all other numeric analysis tools like e-views, SPSS, that is the statistics package for social scientists. All these mathematical, statistical tools, analytical tools are used to analyze historic data. The statistical tools are used to analyze historic data, such as previous sales, future sales, production figures, and many more. In the second method of forecasting, we call it qualitative forecasting. The qualitative forecasting rests heavily on the expert opinions, suggestions, contributions, experience of the company managers, their sales representative, the customers, major dealers, investors. These are the people that make contribution when we are talking of qualitative sales forecasting. So underneath, you can see the first one that we have here, I put in a bracket, quantitative. Because anyone that have to do with numeric terms, calculations, those are the ones that we call quantitative sales forecasting. But if you are resting on theoretical suggestions, consultations, that is qualitative sales forecasting. So trend analysis is one of the statistical tools used under the quantitative forecasting to estimate historical data, trend of sales, and for us to predict the likely future quantity of certain products or likely events or certain strategic decision of the company. Apart from the trend analysis, we have system modeling. System modeling is equally a quantitative techniques that the company can use to estimate future decisions on certain variables and inputs, and how that future decision might affect the company favorably or negatively. So anytime we are using system modeling, there's an opportunity for us to have number of different items or input variables to make our future forecast. So it gives us opportunity to vary our input and values. So this is time model, system modeling, exponential growth model. They are effective tools that we use under the quantitative sales forecasting. In the exponential growth model too, is a statistical tool that we can use to estimate future events, maybe event, return on investment. And in the exponential model, the model can use various variables to estimate future outcome, such as historical growth in the market, current price, current cost, the current number of our employees or sales representative, the strength of our sales representative, the customer's attitude. So all these are some of the inputs that we can use to estimate our sales forecasting. In the qualitative, that has nothing to do with numeric or calculation. Some of the techniques under the qualitative are Delphi techniques. I can just call it Delphi method. So Delphi method require the contributions from different experts. All these experts, they are better informed about the forecasting intent of the company. And there's possibility that in the Delphi method, there can be use of brainstorming, there can be use of benchmarking. And we have some instances which I myself have experienced as a consultant, that in the Delphi method, they can give us a sort of questionnaire. So it is our in this questionnaire, how we digest the information that they have that will guide the company on their decision on the forecasting. So questionnaire can be given to different selected panels in the Delphi method. So this questionnaire, after perusing, analyzing the questionnaire, and giving the company some expert advice, so they can use this one to guide their forecasting decisions. So after implementing the decision, there can be review of it and necessary follow-up for us to know the effectiveness of the DEFI method as a forecasting tool. Anytime we are doing forecasting, we have to ensure there's an assessment of the business strategies that we want to implement. And anytime you mention the word assessment of the business strategy, the assessment of the business strategy is basically focused on determining the suitability of a strategy. Because the assessment is more or less the evaluation, critical review of the business strategy of the company. So under the assessment of the business strategy now, we have one, we determine the suitability of the strategy. Two, we determine the life cycle analysis. We can determine the life cycle analysis for the company and at the same time, determine the life cycle analysis for the products. In fact, I love this number 2 because, we have done the life cycle analysis for a product. That is product life cycle. That I inform you that the product life cycle comprises of the introduction stage, growth stage, maturity stage, and decline stage. But when we talk of the life cycle analysis of a company, then the life cycle analysis of a company comprises of phase 1, that is the phase of creativity, phase 2, the phase of direction, phase 3, phase of delegation, and minimum. That's what we are doing in stage 2. To be able to know if the strategy that we implemented or are about to adopt will be suitable for us to manage all these different phases of the product and the organization life cycle. In number 3, we have to assess the resources and competency of the organization because these two are needed for the company to gain competitive advantage and strategic capability. So we must be able to harness our resources and competency together. The next one is for the business profile analysis. That is the feasibility of the strategy. So at this stage, after evaluation, if the strategy is not profitable, is not value adding, we have to drop the strategy and start all over again or look for alternative strategic approach that the company can use. Immediately we have done that, then we consider the acceptability of a strategy. It is key for us to have industrial harmony. It is key for us to limit agency problem, and it is key for us to avoid the crisis of control. Any strategy, proposed strategy, must be accepted by the stakeholders. It must be accepted by the shareholders, because the shareholders are the owners of the company that own the resources, own the organization, finance and manage the company. And lastly, we have to select individual investments, and that individual investment we must ensure strategic fit. And what is that strategic fit? Let me remind you again. Strategic fit means that the individual investment that we are adopting or investing on must align company vision statement, mission statement, core values, and philosophy. All this assessment of the strategy that we are discussing about, the basis for assessing the business strategy and the reason why it is essential is because Johnson and Scholes suggested that when judging the strengths or weaknesses of a proposed strategy, the strategy should be evaluated. The strategy should be evaluated for its suitability. More or less a repetition of what we have just said. It must be evaluated to determine its suitability. Does it meet up with the strategic requirements of the company? Does it align with the company's resources, competency, and core competency? 2, the basis of assessment that we just mentioned now is acceptability. Is it acceptable by the shareholders and the stakeholders and the board of directors? Feasibility. Feasibility means that, is it profitable? What are the financial gains? Is the financial gains robust or small? If the financial gain is slim, then we can think of another strategy that will give us a robust and enriched financial gain without sustaining any loss. And in the feasibility too, we have to ensure that we determine the level of risks attached and the company risk appetite. So these are the things that are now expatiated here. Suitability of the company, is the strategy suitable for the intended purpose, and how profitable it is. Will this strategy give us opportunity to gain competitive advantage? So similarly here, all these things are what we have mentioned and discussed before. Fast growth means grow the company business at a faster rate. I only do this for you to have a better understanding of some of the terminologies that are used or mentioned in the course of explanation. Grow with the industry. The second one is another term that I've used. Grow with the industry means that as the industry is growing, the industry become more attractive. The company too should grow by making more sales, gaining high market share, and having high returns on their sweat capitals. As the company is growing, grow with the industry, then automatically our brands too should grow in terms of equity, value, should grow in terms of recognition and awareness. Find niche. Find niche means that the company can develop a strategy whereby they concentrate on certain aspects of the market. It might be a very smaller aspect of the market, but that market has to be a profitable market. So we are doing this for us to offset or overcome hyper competition in the market. And we are doing this to reduce costs. So niche strategy is used by small business enterprises that does not have the competitive strength to fight the multinational companies. So in so doing, they use what we call focus strategy. They create a niche. They concentrate on a narrow segment of the market that is profitable so that they can be able to achieve sustainable growth and renew profitability. So we have renew. Renew means we introduce a new and innovative products. We introduce a new features. We improve on our service delivery. That is renew. Harvest profit. Harvest profit implies that for our cash cow products, thank God we have discussed on BCG. I inform you that the cash cow product under BCG means the product that generate the highest and necessary returns. So when we now talk of harvest profit means that we are taking part of the excess profit that we gain from the cash cow to support all other weak businesses. Harvest profit means that we are taking excess profit from the cash cow products to develop new products and achieve other strategic goals of the company. That's what we call harvest profit. So the suitability of a strategy, we have discussed this. Suitability of a strategy means we have to assess resources and competency. Do we have the resources and competency to implement this strategy? What are the resources that we have? Man, machine, money, material, time, information. Do we have the competency, core competency and capability to embark on this strategy result? So the suitability must be determined using the resources and competency. At the same time, our suitability can be determined by using our business profile analysis. By the business profile analysis, we want to determine if that strategy will be profitable or not profitable. It's of no use investing in a strategy that offer no strategic benefit. Any strategy that is not profitable, be it in the short, medium, and long time, should not be adopted. That strategy should be rejected on arrival. So, same with the feasibility of a strategy. A feasible strategy must be profitable. A feasible strategy must give the company opportunity to leverage on their resources, competency, experience to gain competitive advantage and improve performance. So we have to ensure that all these things are well taken care of. We have already discussed about the acceptability of a strategy. It's of no use doing repetition there. What we said is that in the acceptability of a strategy, any strategy that we have implemented or formulated must be subject to ratification and acceptability by the shareholders and stakeholders in the organization. If the strategy is not profitable, the shareholders should reject it outrightly. So we are proceeding, and I love the pace at which we are going. Is there any question at this junction before we move to CSR?
Yeah, sir, please, are you going to share this material with us?
Yes. I'm going to share the material with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Alexander, I've not heard your voice today. What happened? Mayubo? Madam Alexander? Okay, afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, my regards to all, Aisha, Jacinta, Selma, and the rest. Okay, let's proceed by looking at CSR. So in the CSR, I start with business ethics, but it is very necessary for me to inform you that the business ethics is very essential for complaints. Majority of the complaint now, they lack this business ethics, all because all their mode of operations and what have you are full of fallacy, and this one bring about what we call reputational damage for the organization. And once the reputation is damaged, it weakens your competitive strength. It affects your brand. So the business ethics simply means the need for company to comply with all stipulated laws, code of corporate governance, government regulations, agency laws, and all others. Because without this compliance, then the company stands to face series of crises that might lead to premature extinction from the business industry. So the business ethics implies that companies must have ethical behavior. They must have ethical values. The business ethics also inform us that as a company, you must have in place core values and code of conduct that will guide the entire operation of the company within and outside. So putting in place ethical value will give the company and its product good reputation. It will make all the customers to be loyal to us. It will attract a lot of investors. So in the ethical issues, ethics in business, I've told you, I will emphasize that, require discipline. It requires putting in place a standard and measure of the employee's attitude. The ethical issues and regulation is that anytime a company violates, fail to comply with stipulated laws and regulations, then automatically such a company stands to face litigation. The company can be sued by either the government or the society or some customers, and all these things is not good for our business. So the ethical issues and regulations require one, acting within the law. The acting within the law means there should be strict adherence to stipulated laws, regulation, code of corporate governance, CBN directives, agency law, bank and other financial institution acts. We must act within the law. So the company, employees too, must act within the law and they must follow strictly the code of conduct in the organization. The ethical regulation require fair and honest dealings with suppliers and customers. You must not just take undue or unjust advantage over the suppliers and the customers. You must not exploit them for whatever reason. You must not sell unhealthy products to our customers. 3, acting fairly towards the employees. You must be concerned about their welfare, promote them as at when due, reward them, recognize their trade union. At the same time, acting ethically means showing respect for human rights. So when we do all this, we said we are acting within stipulated laws and regulations. So what do we mean by ethical stance? Ethical stance means the extent to which ethical stance, it means the extent or the degree to which an entity will exceed its minimum legal and ethical obligation to shareholders and the society in general. That is what we call ethical stand. It means the extent, the degree to which an entity, that is company, will exceed its minimum legal and ethical obligations to stakeholders and society in general. So different companies have different ethical stands. But generally, there are 4 ethical stands that are formulated by Johnson and Scholes. And our ethical stands are these. 1, the first ethical stance, position 1, is that the company takes the view that its only interest should be short-term interest of the shareholders. In most companies, their priority, the ethical stance of all directors is that the owner of the business that refers to as the shareholders have invested huge amount of money. They are risk bearer. And as a result of that, priority must be given to their short-time and long-time benefits. That means the satisfaction of the shareholders is the major interest of the company. Now, the company director in position 1 now must see to how they can maximize profit, and increase the wealth of the shareholders. The position 2 is not far from position 1 in the area of ethical stand. But the only difference there is that they now give exemptions to accommodating contribution to the welfare of the employees and society if they need be. Look at position 2 statement. The company takes the view that the interests of the shareholders are the most important concern. But in the long time, can you see the statement? The company will benefit by showing some concern for the interests of the employees and community in general. So more or less, the company now is now listening to the yearnings of the employees, because there is a theory that we have like that. We call it stakeholders theory. These stakeholder studies inform that it is not the interest of the shareholders alone that the company director should focus on. They must focus in ensuring that the welfare of the staff too are protected. So the first position says interest of the shareholders is paramount, particularly the short time and long time. Second position says that the interest of the shareholders is paramount as expressed and emphasized above, but in some instances we can give preference to the interest of the workers and the society. Position 3, under the ethical stance, says the company must recognize not only their obligation to the shareholders, but to the stakeholders group. In that position 3 now, we're not saying that the stakeholders should be recognized too. All necessary rewards or benefits should be given to them, particularly the primary and secondary stakeholders, the internal and external stakeholders, legitimate stakeholders, all these people that we have to recognize and make necessary rewards to them. So the last one, in position 4, is that company has the ethical obligation towards society. That as a company, we must be a shaper of the society. And that is where CSR comes in. We must give back to the society. We must make landmark significant contribution to societal well-being, economic growth and development. So what are the consequences of unethical behavior? Some of the consequences of unethical behavior is that it can cause reputational risks. It causes reputational risks. It weakens the company growth. It leads to loss of customers. Unethical behavior too, punishments from the company. And that reputational risk that I told you, anytime we talk about reputational risks, so that means that the company have involved themselves in some business that are unlawful. Like for instance now, engaging in ultra-vire business. When you engage in ultra-vire business and you are caught, then the society, the company, and even your competitors can bring a legal case against you. Because engaging in the ultra-vire business means that you involve in any business that you are not registered for or illegal business. And once you are caught, this one affects your reputation. Once the reputation of the company, the goodwill of the company that has been damaged, then automatically it has damaged their brand. It has even damaged their existence. And the very reason why we have to ensure that ethics is very paramount. The very reason why we have to involve that we always operate in line with stipulated laws to avoid loss of investments and reputational risks. Anytime there's a reputational risk, the company will experience what we call brand avoidance. Nobody will associate with their brands. Even all their loyal customers will go. Some investors or shareholders may relinquish their share options in the company. So lastly, we look at CSR. What do you call CSR? CSR simply means corporate social responsibility. CSR simply means corporate social responsibility. I repeat that, and you can see I put in abbreviation CSR, meaning that in exam condition, it can be abbreviated. CSR, please take note. What we call CSR, in a very simplified form, I'll share the material with you so you read later on. CSR simply means the voluntary obligation or responsibility of the company that is designed to better the life of the shareholders, stakeholders, and the public. If you don't want to use the word public, then you can use the word society. So with CSR, voluntarily, companies use part of the profit they realize to make provision for some projects that can bring about significant impact to the customers, to their employees, to the society, and including the government. And anytime we are doing our CSR, we have to ensure that our CSR is done with genuity. We must do our CSR to operate and treat our employees fairly and with respect. You can see the number one there. With this number one, that one erased the impression that most people have that CSR is just directed towards the society, external people. No. Part of our CSR is our responsibility to our employees, our internal staff, our permanent stakeholders. So CSR require treating employees fairly and with respect. CSR require operating in ethical way and with integrity. Our CSR must not be full of fallacious claims. We have to refrain from that. And that is what we call greenwashing. GREENWASHING. Some companies did not do any meaningful CSR or they don't even do it at all. And in their AGM annual report, you will see that they said certain millions of naira was invested in the corporate social responsibility too, and there are no evidence, physical evidence of all these projects. Some will tell you that as part of their CSR, they have invested billions of naira to comply with carbon emission and environmental sustainability goals of the company. They are fallacy. We have to ensure that we refrain from this. Our CSR must respect the human rights and at the same time must sustain the environment for future generation. Lastly, in that number 5, our CSR must be directed to neighbors. What are those people we call neighbors? They are the host community, host society, the public. Because we have a social contract. They give us land, they support us, they buy our product, they wish us well. We must give back to them in whatever capacity. My provision of borehole, provision of electricity, security support, financial aids, educational support, creation of employment, all these things are things that we can give our host community as a reward. So what are the critical aspects of social CSR? The critical aspect or components of CSR, the major components are ethical responsibility. Ethical responsibility means operating in an honest and fair way, having protection for our goodwill and reputation, not involved in illegal business. These are ethical responsibility. Labor responsibility. Labor responsibility means following the employment laws, treating your workers with fairness, equity. Let them have job security, pay security, avoidance of discrimination at work, promotion as at when due, unbiased appraisal. All these things are what we call labor responsibility. The legal responsibility, we have said so many things about this. Ensure compliance with the Code of Corporate Governance, compliance with the constitutional provision, regulations of business. Philanthropy responsibility, that is, you can invest, rehabilitation of roads, building of schools, payment of tax, financial support, security support to the Nigerian police, provision of healthcare facilities. All these things are what we call philanthropy support. And another component of CSR is economic responsibility. We have to make contribution, landmark contribution to some projects that can bring about economic viability, including tax payments. Environmental responsibility, we have to ensure that we reduce pollution. We have to ensure we engage in activities that can bring about pronounced environmental protection and sustainability. So we have to ensure that's what we call afforestation. and we must produce hygienic products. And if possible, we embrace what we call green manufacturing in order to reduce the rate of emission, or we engage in recycling of our products. All these things are what we call environmental responsibility. So next we have steps in implementing corporate social responsibility. This one came out, I think, in 2022. Was it in 2022 or 2023 that you can check for me? ICAN require that the students should highlight the steps required in the implementation of corporate social responsibility. So the step are just 5. You just state the 5. I don't know the allotted mark, if it's 5 marks or I think it's 5 marks or 6 marks. So they said they should list the steps involved in the implementation of corporate social responsibility. So the 5 steps involved in the implementation of CSR are: 1, identification of the ethical value of the company CSR, and we must publish it for the consumption of the public. We identify what are our ethical values, what are the areas of CSR that we want to do, then we publish it for all our investors, customers, and everybody to see. 2, establish the company's current position with regard to its CSR value. What is our own corporate position with respect to CSR? What are the things that we are doing or we put in place towards ensuring achievement of our future CSR? Number 3, we must develop a target and strategy for CSR policy. What that number 3 is saying is that in our CSR now, look at last weekend at the VI Center of Equity Professional. We don't have lecture, all because of the yearly Access Bank Marathon. So the realistic target of Access Bank is that they directed their own CSR towards sports development in the area of marathon. It has become a yearly thing every year. And a lot of companies now support the government and the rest. So number 4, the company CSR achievement should be communicated. Your achievements, your goals, your results, we have to communicate it to the stakeholders. And lastly, the company achievement should be monitored, evaluated, and reviewed. So what are the implications of ethics and CSR? Please note here, the implication here simply means what are the, how will I put it, the benefits. What are the benefits, the significance of ethics and CSR? These are things that you can answer on your own in exam condition. The implication of ethics and CSR, you can use your own simple English. You don't need to cram anything. When you are being asked, what are the implications of ethics and CSR? The first thing that I'm expecting you to say is that, 1, all these basic answer, that it improves the reputation of the company. That means it boosts corporate reputation or goodwill. Implication, it promotes reciprocal relationship with the society and the government. What are the implications of CSR? It enhances customers' brand association. It promotes brand equity or recognition. It improves the organization profitability because customers will patronize us more, but they knew that we give back to the society. So those are the implications of corporate social responsibility. So strategic selection, we are rounding up now. Strategic selection. Strategic selection refers to the selection of specific strategy out of the numerous alternative strategies. From the onset of this our lecture, we have discussed critically on the various things that we need to do anytime company wants to embark on strategic evaluation. In our strategic evaluation, we said that we have to determine the suitability of the strategy, the feasibility of the strategy, and acceptability of the strategy by stakeholders and shareholders. So any strategy that we want to select, if the strategy is not suitable, is not feasible, is not profitable, and is not accepted, then we reject it. It must not be selected. Company must select strategy that offer financial and non-financial benefits to the organization. So formal evaluation is still the same thing with what I've just said. The formal evaluation just means to evaluate the suitability, feasibility, acceptability of the strategy, and for us to know the level of risk attached to that strategy and the returns. Another word, enforce strategy. This one, I can't say the year, but I know it is maybe around 2020 or thereafter that the ICAN asked them the meaning of enforced strategy. I think 2 marks. It's not more than 2 marks or 3 marks. What is the meaning of enforced strategy? Enforced strategy means the strategies that the company implemented out of no choice. We don't have any choice than to adopt or implement the strategy. Like for instance now, the ongoing economic hardship in Nigeria, the hyperinflation that we are facing, bring about increasing operational costs for organization. Due to this increasing cost, majority of companies now embark on downsizing. You can see that they downsize, they lay off some staff because of situation beyond them. They don't have any choice than to downsize in order to reduce their overhead expenses. That is a good example of what we call enforced strategy. So lastly, what is the meaning of learning and experience? Experience, as you can see in our share slide, is acquired over time. With experience, company acquire skills, more competency, and develop some areas of core competency. Our experience can be leveraged on by the company for them to have improved performance, competitiveness, and manage whatever changes that occur in the business environment. Experience too give company confidence for them to be able to invest in some business that have moderate risks, and that business might not exceed their risk appetite. But when it comes to learning, learning is just the acquisition of new ideas. And anytime there's a learning brings about positive changes in the behavior and attitude of the workers. So meaning that learning brings about reinforcement of positive attitude and behavior from the workers. With learning, it increases the readiness of the employees to accept delegation, and it improves the managerial performance of the company's directors. So these tools are needed for companies to achieve enhanced performance in any industry where they operate. And the two of them is needed. The two of them are needed for companies, managers, and directors to manage the investments of the shareholders. So learning and experience, they are strategic tools that is needed by the employees for better efficiency and corporate proficiency. So companies must invest in this area through training, manpower development, and the rest to enhance the exposure, acquisition of more experience, and so the workers to learning that will bring in huge benefits to the company throughout its phases of existence. So I've put underneath some likely questions that we can review. I haven't read the material, we can close it, try to attempt all these questions, and some of them are past questions of ICAN the year. So I just reframe them for us to use it to guide ourselves. So thank you for listening. I wish you the very best of luck. So enjoy the rest of your day. Any question, please? Is there any question before I leave the class and attend to other physical lectures?
Nothing,
Okay?
sir.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of the day.